Have you ever stood before a vast, ancient redwood tree, tracing the deep grooves in its bark with your fingers? Each line tells a story of seasons past, of storms weathered and suns enjoyed. It doesn't lament the loss of its youthful sapling form. Instead, it stands in quiet, magnificent testament to the journey. What if we could learn to see the 8th decade of human life not as a final, fading chapter, but as the arrival at our own personal redwood stature, marked by experience, shaped by time, and possessing a unique and profound beauty? Society often paints a grim picture of life after 80, a narrative dominated by decline and loss. We are bombarded with messages about fighting aging, reversing time, and clinging desperately to the vitality of our youth. But this is a shallow and ultimately exhausting battle against an invincible tide. The truth, a secret whispered by those who have walked this path, is that while certain changes are indeed inevitable, they are not a verdict. They are an invitation. They call us to a different way of being, a new relationship with our bodies, our minds, and the very meaning of our existence. This exploration is not a somber list of ailments to dread, but a comprehensive and honest roadmap for navigating one of life's most transformative periods. We will delve into 5 fundamental shifts that occur as we enter our 80s, not to fear them, but to understand them, adapt to them, and discover the unexpected grace and wisdom they hold. This is about embracing the journey, not just enduring the destination. The first and most immediately apparent of these transformations is the shifting landscape of our physical vitality. It is an undeniable truth that as we cross the threshold into our 80s, our bodies no longer possess the same reserves of strength and energy that powered our younger years. This is not a failure of will or a consequence of laziness. It is a profound biological reality. The gradual process of sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and function, which may have been a distant concept in our 50s and 60s, now makes its presence felt in the tangible realities of daily life. The grocery bags feel heavier, the staircase seems steeper, and the simple act of rising from a comfortable armchair requires a conscious effort that was once automatic. This decline is a complex symphony of factors, including hormonal shifts, a decrease in the efficiency of cellular repair, and the cumulative effect of a lifetime of wear and tear on our joints and cardiovascular system. Consider the story of John, a retired high school football coach from Austin, Texas. For 40 years, his life was defined by physical command and boundless energy. He spent his days on the field, his powerful voice echoing across the gridiron, his body a tool of demonstration and authority. Now, at 82, John finds his world has changed. He still has the sharp mind of a strategist and the heart of a mentor, but his body speaks a different language. A morning walk with his dog, once a brisk 3-mile circuit, is now a more contemplative 1-mile stroll, punctuated by rests on a familiar park bench. He describes the feeling not as a sudden collapse, but as a slow gravitational pull, a gentle but persistent reminder that his physical reserves are finite. His frustration, initially sharp, has softened into a kind of respectful negotiation with his body. He has learned that pushing too hard results not in renewed strength, but in prolonged fatigue and the risk of injury, which at this age heals on its own deliberate schedule. However, understanding and accepting this natural decline is the crucial first step toward thriving within it. It is not a surrender, but a strategic adaptation. The key is to shift the goal from peak performance to sustained function and well-being. This involves embracing new forms of movement that honor the body's current capabilities. Age-appropriate exercise becomes less about intensity and more about consistency and purpose. Light strength training, perhaps using resistance bands or small hand weights, is vital for slowing muscle atrophy and maintaining the strength needed for essential daily tasks. Activities that promote balance, such as Tai Chi or gentle yoga, are invaluable in preventing falls, which represent a significant threat to independence in later life. John, for instance, discovered the surprising benefits of water aerobics at his local community center. The buoyancy of the water supports his joints, allowing him to engage in a full range of motion without the strain he feels on land, leaving him feeling invigorated rather than depleted. Nutrition, too, plays a central role in this new partnership with the body. Consuming adequate protein becomes more critical than ever to provide the building blocks for muscle maintenance. Essential nutrients like vitamin D and calcium are crucial for preserving bone density, while vitamin B12 supports nerve function and energy metabolism. Hydration, often overlooked, is paramount, as even mild dehydration can exacerbate feelings of fatigue and confusion. John, with guidance from his doctor, made conscious adjustments to his diet, focusing on lean proteins, colorful vegetables, and ensuring he drank water throughout the day. The improvement wasn't dramatic, but it was steady, a subtle but noticeable increase in his stamina and overall sense of vitality. The most profound shift for John, however, was mental. He learned to listen to his body's whispers before they became shouts, to appreciate the gift of a good day, and to grant himself grace on the days when his energy was low. This is the essence of navigating this chapter, not fighting a war against aging, but cultivating a wise and compassionate alliance with the body that has carried you through a lifetime. This was the first fundamental shift, a new relationship with our physical selves. If you found this detailed exploration of adapting to changes in strength and energy to be helpful and insightful, please comment with the number 1 below to let us know. Your feedback helps us understand what resonates most with you. Another profound recalibration occurs not in the muscles and bones, but within the intricate, mysterious corridors of the mind. As we journey into our 80s, it is common to notice that our cognitive processing begins to move at a different rhythm. Tasks that were once completed with swift, unconscious ease may now require more deliberate focus. Recalling a name, a specific date, or the title of a half-remembered movie can feel like searching for a book in a vast, unlit library. This cognitive slowing is one of the most feared aspects of aging, often mistaken for the onset of a serious disorder. While vigilance is always wise, it is essential to understand that for many, this change in tempo is a normal, non-pathological part of the brain's long life. To understand this shift, it's helpful to consider the difference between fluid and crystallized intelligence. Fluid intelligence is the capacity to think logically and solve novel problems independent of acquired knowledge. It involves skills like processing speed, working memory, and abstract reasoning. Research consistently shows that this type of intelligence tends to peak in early adulthood and gradually declines thereafter. This is the change we notice in our 80s, the slight delay in processing a complex question or the need to write things down to keep track of multiple steps. However, this is only half of the cognitive story. The other half is crystallized intelligence, which refers to the accumulation of knowledge, facts, and skills that are acquired throughout life. This form of intelligence, which includes vocabulary, general knowledge, and deep understanding of one's areas of expertise, often remains stable or can even continue to improve well into our later years. Let's meet Evelyn, an 80-year-old watercolor artist living in the vibrant light of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Evelyn's studio is her sanctuary, a place where, for decades, her hands moved with a quick, intuitive certainty. Lately, she's noticed the shift. Sometimes, in the middle of a conversation, a word she wants will hover just out of reach, the frustrating tip-of-the-tongue phenomenon. Following a fast-paced, multi-person dinner conversation can feel like trying to catch hummingbirds with a net. Yet, when she stands before her easel, something remarkable happens. While the name of a specific pigment might escape her for a moment, her hands know, from a deep well of crystallized knowledge, precisely how to mix ultramarine blue with a touch of burnt sienna to create the exact shadow she sees on a distant mesa. Her mind may be slower to fetch an isolated fact, but her wisdom, the integrated, holistic understanding of her craft, is at its absolute peak. She is no longer a quick painter, she is a wise painter. Her work has gained a depth and subtlety that it lacked in her youth. Evelyn's experience illustrates a beautiful trade-off. The brain of an octogenarian is not a broken version of a younger brain. It is a differently organized one. It has traded raw processing speed for a rich, interconnected web of experience and knowledge. Embracing this new cognitive rhythm means letting go of the pressure to be as sharp or quick as a 30-year-old, and instead learning to value the unique strengths of a mature mind. This requires patience with oneself and the development of new strategies. Evelyn keeps a small notebook handy to jot down ideas or reminders, not as a crutch, but as a tool that frees up her mental energy to focus on what truly matters, her art. Furthermore, we can be active participants in nurturing our cognitive health. The brain, like a muscle, benefits from use. Engaging in activities that are both stimulating and enjoyable is key. This could be anything from learning a new language or a musical instrument to playing strategic games like chess or bridge, which challenge planning and memory. Social interaction is a powerful cognitive workout, as it requires us to listen, process information, and formulate responses in real time. Evelyn's participation in a local book club and an art class does more than just combat loneliness. It keeps her mind agile and engaged. A healthy lifestyle provides the essential foundation for cognitive function. A balanced diet rich in antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids, quality sleep, and effective stress management are not just good for the body, they are critical for the brain. By understanding that the mind's rhythm changes, we can learn to dance to the new beat, appreciating the wisdom where speed once rushed. Have you, or someone you know, experienced this shift from quick thinking to wise understanding? It's a subtle but powerful change. Share your thoughts on this in the comments. And if you're finding this deep dive valuable, we'd be so grateful if you would support the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Remember to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our future explorations into living a fulfilling life. Now, let's move on to how this inward turn influences our connections with the world around us. This inward turn, this recalibration of the mind and body, naturally influences our outward connections. A third inevitable shift that accompanies life in our 80s is the refinement of our social circles. On the surface, this can look like a loss. The bustling holiday parties of our 40s, the wide network of colleagues from our working years, the large group of neighborhood friends, these may have gradually dwindled. The address book, once overflowing, now holds a more select, more precious list of names. This shrinking of the social sphere is often viewed with alarm as a precursor to loneliness and isolation. But a deeper look, informed by psychology, reveals a more nuanced and often positive process at play. Laura Carstensen, a psychologist at Stanford University, developed what is known as socio-emotional selectivity theory. This theory posits that as our perception of time changes, as we recognize our time on Earth is becoming more finite, our motivational goals shift. When we are young and see a long, open future ahead, we are motivated to pursue goals that expand our horizons, acquiring knowledge, meeting new people, and gathering a wide range of experiences. As we age, however, our focus shifts toward goals that are emotionally meaningful in the present. We are no longer driven by the quantity of our social contacts, but by the quality. We become less interested in networking and more invested in nurturing the relationships that provide genuine emotional support, intimacy, and a sense of belonging. This is not so much a shrinking of our world as it is a deliberate and wise curation. Let's picture Margaret, an 84-year-old retired librarian from a small town in Vermont. For most of her life, Margaret was a pillar of her community. She knew everyone, organized the annual town bake sale, and her home was a hub of constant friendly activity. Now her life is quieter. Some of her dearest friends have passed away, others have moved to be closer to their children, and her own energy levels no longer permit hosting large gatherings. A few decades ago, this quietness might have felt like a profound loss. But Margaret describes it differently. She speaks of a recent snowy afternoon spent by the fireplace with her daughter and her oldest friend, a woman she has known for 70 years. They didn't do much. They drank tea, shared old stories, and sat in comfortable silence, watching the snowfall. Margaret reflected that the depth of connection and the pure, uncomplicated peace of that single afternoon felt more nourishing to her soul than a dozen of the boisterous parties of her past. She had traded breadth for harmony. Of course, this process is not without its pain. The loss of a spouse or a lifelong friend leaves a void that cannot be filled, and grieving these losses is a necessary and important part of the journey. Involuntary isolation is a very real danger, especially for those who may lack family support or mobility. It's crucial to distinguish between chosen solitude, which can be restorative, and forced loneliness, which is detrimental to both mental and physical health. The key is to be proactive in nurturing the connections that remain, and to be open to forming new ones, albeit in a more selective way. This is where adapting our approach to socializing becomes vital. Technology, once perhaps intimidating, can become a lifeline. A scheduled weekly video call with grandchildren living across the country can provide a powerful dose of joy and connection. Joining a specific online community, such as a Facebook group for classic movie buffs or a forum for avid gardeners, can connect seniors with peers who share their passions, transcending geographical limitations. At the same time, local resources remain invaluable. Senior centers, volunteer organizations, faith communities, and local hobby clubs offer structured, low-pressure environments to meet new people. Margaret found unexpected joy in joining a small group that knits blankets for a local hospital. The shared activity provides a purpose, and the gentle conversation that accompanies it has allowed new, meaningful friendships to blossom at their own pace. The goal is to create a social life that fits, one that provides comfort, stimulation, and a sense of being truly seen and valued, proving that the most resonant connections are not always found in a crowd. The evolution of our social lives is a deeply personal journey. We would be honored if you shared a story in the comments about a meaningful connection you've cultivated later in life. What makes that relationship special? And if you feel this discussion on quality over quantity in relationships is important, please let us know by commenting with the number 3 below. Just as our social world is perceived through a new lens, so too is the physical world. The fourth fundamental shift we experience in our 80s is a gradual yet impactful change in our sensory abilities. Our senses are the gateways through which we experience the world. The vibrant color of a sunset, the comforting melody of a favorite song, the savory aroma of a home-cooked meal. As we age, these gateways can become narrower, subtly altering our daily interactions with our environment. This sensory decline is not a sudden event, but a slow dimming of the lights, affecting hearing, vision, taste, and smell in ways that require conscious adaptation. Consider Harold, an 83-year-old retired carpenter from rural Pennsylvania. His life's work was built on sensory acuity. He could judge the straightness of a board with a glance, feel the perfect smoothness of a sanded surface with his fingertips, and hear the subtle change in his saw's hum that signaled it was time to sharpen the blade. Now his senses tell a different story. He finds himself leaning in closer during family dinners, struggling to parse conversations against the clatter of dishes. This is a classic sign of presbycusis, or age-related hearing loss, which often begins with difficulty distinguishing high-pitched sounds and filtering out background noise. It can lead to frustration and a tendency to withdraw from social situations to avoid the strain of trying to keep up.
His vision has also changed. The fine print on medicine bottles and in his beloved woodworking magazines has become a blur, requiring a collection of reading glasses strategically placed around the house. This is due to presbyopia, the stiffening of the eye's lens, but also a reduction in the pupil's ability to adapt to changing light, making it harder to see clearly in dim conditions. For Harold, this means that his evening workshop time, once a source of great pleasure, now requires bright, focused task lighting to be safe and enjoyable. More serious age-related conditions like cataracts, glaucoma, or macular degeneration are also more prevalent in this decade, necessitating regular and vigilant eye care. The changes extend to the chemical senses of taste and smell, which are intricately linked. A reduction in the number and sensitivity of taste buds and olfactory receptors can mean that food begins to taste bland or less appealing. Harold notes that his wife's legendary apple pie, a recipe perfected over 50 years, doesn't seem to have the same rich, cinnamony punch it once did. This can have significant nutritional consequences, as a diminished enjoyment of food can lead to a poorer appetite, weight loss, and a reliance on excessive salt or sugar to enhance flavor, which can negatively impact cardiovascular health and blood sugar control. Despite these challenges, a fulfilling and safe life is entirely possible with the right adaptations. This is not about resigning oneself to a muted world, but about finding creative and technological ways to turn the volume and brightness back up. Modern hearing aids are remarkably sophisticated, capable of amplifying speech while filtering out background noise. Regular eye exams are non-negotiable, and simple environmental modifications like improving lighting, using high-contrast colors, and eliminating trip hazards like loose rugs can dramatically improve home safety. To combat blandness in food, exploring a wider range of herbs, spices, citrus zests, and different textures can reawaken the palate in new and healthy ways. Crucially, communication is key. Explaining these sensory changes to family and friends can foster immense patience and understanding. A simple request like, "Could you please face me when you speak?" or "Let's sit in a quieter corner of the restaurant," can transform a stressful social outing into an enjoyable one. Harold learned to let his family know when he couldn't follow a conversation, rather than nodding along in frustrated silence. In turn, they learned to speak more clearly and to ensure he was included. Acknowledging and actively managing these sensory shifts empower seniors to remain safely independent and continue to participate fully in the moments, large and small, that bring life its flavor and color. These sensory changes are a reality for so many. What adaptations or strategies have you or a loved one found to be most helpful? Your practical tips could be a great help to others in this community. Please comment with the number 4 below to let us know you're with us on this journey. And if you haven't already, we invite you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to continue receiving content designed to inform and inspire.
The culmination of these physical, cognitive, and social shifts often leads to the fifth and perhaps most profound transformation of all, a deeper, more intentional focus on meaningful moments and self-reflection. When the race to build a career is over, when the children are grown and have families of their own, and when the future is measured more in seasons than in decades, there is a natural turning inward. The frantic pace of doing gives way to the quiet, enriching practice of being. This is a period where the grand ambitions of youth are replaced by an appreciation for the simple, profound joys of the present moment. The warmth of the morning sun on your face, the sound of a grandchild's laughter, the quiet satisfaction of tending to a small garden. This shift is beautifully articulated in the work of psychoanalyst Erik Erikson, who described the final stage of psychosocial development as a conflict between ego integrity versus despair. To achieve integrity is to look back on one's life, with all its triumphs and disappointments, its joys and sorrows, and to accept it as a whole and meaningful journey. It is the ability to say, "This was my life, and I wouldn't trade it." This process of life review and self-reflection is not about dwelling on the past, but about integrating it, finding the patterns, learning the lessons, and making peace with it. This creates a foundation of wisdom and contentment from which to live out one's remaining years. We see this embodied in Robert, an 82-year-old retired history teacher from Dayton, Ohio. For years, Robert's life was structured by lesson plans, historical timelines, and the forward march of progress. Now he spends his mornings in his favorite armchair with a cup of coffee and a journal. He's not planning for the future, he's curating the past. He's writing down stories from his life, not for publication, but as a legacy for his grandchildren. He writes about his childhood during the Great Depression, his service in the Korean War, the day he met his wife, and the challenges and joys of raising a family. In doing so, Robert is not just reminiscing. He is actively weaving the threads of his personal story into the larger tapestry of history he so loves. He finds profound purpose in connecting his past with his family's future, ensuring that the values and lessons of his life are not lost to time. This heightened focus on meaning reshapes priorities. The pursuit of material possessions or social status fades into irrelevance. What comes to the forefront is the quality of one's relationships and the desire to leave a positive legacy. This legacy is not necessarily about wealth or fame, but about the impact one has had on others, the kindness shown, the wisdom shared, the love given. Many seniors in their 80s report a heightened sense of gratitude, an active practice of noticing and appreciating the good in their lives, which research shows is strongly linked to greater happiness and resilience. There is often a move toward forgiveness, both of others and of oneself, which can unburden the soul from decades of resentment or regret. Families and caregivers can play a beautiful role in supporting this journey. The greatest gift you can give an older person is the gift of your time and your listening ear. Ask them questions about their life. Encourage them to share their stories. Create opportunities for reflection, perhaps by looking through old photo albums together or helping them create a legacy project like Robert's journal. It's about honoring the immense repository of wisdom that a long life creates. While the other changes of aging involve adaptation to physical and cognitive limits, this final shift is one of pure expansion, an expansion of the soul. It is a reminder that human growth does not stop when physical growth does. It simply transforms, becoming deeper, richer, and ultimately more profound. Embracing this stage allows one to live with a sense of authenticity and peace, leaving behind a legacy not of what they had, but of who they were. This focus on finding deeper meaning in life's final chapter is a powerful concept. If this idea of cultivating wisdom and leaving a legacy resonates with you, please comment with the number 5 below to share that this point has touched you. As we draw this deep exploration to a close, let's pause and reflect on the 5 interconnected shifts that characterize the journey into our 80s. We've walked through the changing landscape of physical strength, the evolving rhythm of the mind, the careful curation of our social worlds, the adaptation to new sensory realities, and the profound turn toward meaning and self-reflection. These are not separate, isolated events, but facets of a single holistic transformation. They paint a picture of aging that is far more complex, nuanced, and ultimately more hopeful than the simple narrative of decline. They show us that this is not a stage of life to be feared or resisted, but one to be understood, navigated with intention, and embraced for the unique gifts it offers. The ultimate lesson is that while we may not be able to control the inevitable biological changes, we have complete control over our response to them. We can choose adaptation over frustration, wisdom over speed, depth over breadth, and meaning over materialism. The journey after 80 is a masterclass in letting go of what is no longer essential to make space for what truly matters. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and its unending capacity for growth. After exploring these 5 inevitable shifts, what is the one single word you would use to describe the chapter of life after 80? Is it acceptance, wisdom, legacy, peace, or something else entirely? Let us know your word in the comments below. Your perspective is a valuable part of this community conversation, enriching our collective understanding. Thank you for spending this time with us, for engaging with these ideas thoughtfully and openly. If this discussion has brought you value and a new perspective, please show your support with a like and by subscribing to the channel for more content that seeks to inform, connect, and inspire. We look forward to seeing you in the next video, continuing this journey together toward greater understanding and fulfillment.